Grand,
Grand Rising.
Grand Rising, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great rising. Peace to the chat. Peace, Joe 47, Mikael Bryant, LJ Free, Joe 47, Indigenous Intelligence. Hopefully, everyone's doing well. What's the day? Wednesday? What people call Hump Day? That's what the day is?
It's hump day.
Okay.
Peace, y'all. Peace. Grand
Hey.
rising.
All right. So, for those out there in the chat, if you can hear us okay, give us those ones. If the music is too loud, let us know.
Put them
Um,
ones up.
Yeah, let us know because we want to make sure you guys can hear us, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me. Um, all right, all right. So yesterday we talked about the um, the Choctaw Indians, and we were, I guess, zoning in, for lack of better terms, on some of the chiefs of the Choctaw. And we left off with Mushalatubi. I can put that in the back chat right now. For those that weren't on yesterday, you can get a brief catch up. Um, and like the five nations of the Algonquin, Ushalatubi was pro European. He fought on the side of the Americans. Never raised the Choctaw never raised a bow towards the United States or the Europeans, and they've always been pro European. So that sounds like was it Joseph Brandt? Was it Joseph Brandt or John Brandt? Same scenario. Same scenario. Um, he was also responsible for, well, not him particularly, but Greenwood LaFleur was responsible for the blood on blood law being removed. And for those of you who are not aware of what the blood for blood law is, it was a means of checks and balances to keep tribes from warring. And how that operated is, if an Indian from the Cherokee tribe, say, killed an Indian from the Choctaw tribe, then the Cherokee would owe the Choctaw tribe a life. So they would either have to take out the Indian that killed that Choctaw, or they would have to take care of another Cherokee. And as it was stated, that this kept peace and it kept things in balance. So when Greenwood LaFleur removed that, of course, you can only imagine now that there's no consequence for killing Indians. Because now it's like a gang, like we have today. So it just goes to show you that as much as the narrative spins that the Europeans came over here and just took things away from us, in actuality, we're seeing that many of the things that were taken away, our ancestors took them away. So when you get a chance, check out the Blood for Blood Law. Um, and is there anything else that we touched on that needs to be addressed before we move forward with Puck Shanubi, Bones, No Salah?
Oh, none I can think of. Yeah, you touched everything that we went over so far.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, and that we're still on the American side of the Revolutionary War.
Yes, we have not started talking about the adversary or the British side. We're still on the last set of Indians who are fighting on the side of the 13 colonies, aka the United States. So, as you know, when we do this readings and things like that, we go digging and we do some research, try to bring you as much information as possible. Oh, and also too, we had Doodle Vision come on yesterday and fill in some gaps because, as many of you know, he is Choctaw, and he said one of the things that led to the Dancing Rabbit Treaty? Was it Dancing Rabbit Treaty? Oh, Treaty of the
The
Dancing
Treaty
Rabbit
of
Creek.
Dancing Rabbit Creek.
Yeah, his I think he said fifth or sixth great grandfather was the chief that chose not to sign the treaty, so they killed him. Now this is not mentioned in Wikipedia, of course. So if it wasn't for his six-time grandfather not signing that treaty or being killed, that treaty would never have gotten signed. So they had to take him out in order for that treaty to get signed. And Greenwood LaFleur ended up staying in Mississippi while Mushilatubi ended up taking the rest of the Choctaw tribe to what is now Oklahoma. And after they got to Oklahoma, they sent word back to the the Choctaws in Mississippi that they were no longer Choctaw, thus making them citizens and becoming slaves to guess who? Greenwood LaFleur. How you like them apples? So they got sold out twice. So shout out to
The two timer.
yeah, shout out to Do Division for um, putting some perspective on that, which is very important for us to understand and know that if you don't find your tribe and do your genealogy and tie into your genealogy and your tribe, there's a lot of information that you will not have information about, things that you will not be able to tie into because you don't tie into your tribe. And if you don't talk to your elders or talk to the people that have the records, then you wouldn't be able to know that information. And that was something that Do Division confirmed yesterday. So we want to thank him for coming on and sharing his Choctaw experience with us. So I'm going ahead and put the link for Apache in the back chat or in the chat so y'all can take a look at yourselves because that's where we're going to be starting from. And if y'all ready, I'm ready. So let's go ahead and get started. Apache circa 1740, October 18th, 1824, was one of the three principal chiefs of the Choctaw Native American tribe in the early 19th century from before 1800. He led the Western or Okla Falaya, which is Long People, district of the Choctaw, of which the eastern edge ran roughly southeast from the modern Winston County to Lauderdale County, then roughly southwest to Scott County, then roughly southeast to the western edge of Perry County. His contemporaries were Pushmataha and Mashulatubi, who respectively led the Southern District, Okla-Hanali, 6 townspeople, and the Northeastern District, Okla-Tanap, people of the other side. So as you can see, unlike the Algonquin tribes, who had 6 nations and had 6 chiefs, the Choctaw had 3 chiefs primarily. Okay, and during the early 1800s, Apache and the other 2 division chiefs signed several treaties with the United States, ceding land to settlers in the hope of ending their encroachment on Choctaw territory. On his way to Washington, D.C. in 1824 with the other 2 division chiefs and a Choctaw delegation to meet the U.S. officials, Apache suffered a fall and died. His name was also spelled as APV KSHVNVBBEE or Apache
You replace with V's.
Yes, basically. Thank you. No sellout.
And
Or
they have, I don't know what that weird U is. Don't give me the line.
and then they got Puck Shun Nubu and Puck Shun Nubi. So they just basically removed the A and put a U at the end, or just removed the A and left it Puck Shun Nubi. You ever notice how Europeans love to rename people? I don't know if y'all experienced that when y'all was either working with them or when you was in school. Can I call you Tom? Why you don't call me Tom? My name's Thomas. Anyway, I digress. Apache was likely born into a high status family and clan. The Choctaw had a matrilineal system of property and hereditary leadership. While y'all listen to this, children belonged to their mother's clan, and her brothers would have been more important to his upbringing than his biological father, who belonged to a different clan. He was described as a large man, tall and bony, with a down look, and was of the superstitious and religious cast of mind. So let me repeat this part where it talks about who the children belong to in this matrilineal system. Children belong to their mother's clan. Sounds like the Algonquins, huh? And her brothers would have been more important to his upbringing than his biological father, who belonged to a different clan. So we already knew that tribes were intermarrying or having children together. So the lineage stayed with the mother, right? So he was described as a large man, tall and bony, with a down look, and was of the superstitious and religious cast. Now, before I go any further, I want to touch on something that the Bones and No Sellout always laugh about, is that every time Indians go to the White House, go to D.C., they end up dead or they end up getting sick.
I won't gonna let you move on without saying something. I thought you was not gonna say something. Because wait a minute. Because wait a minute.
No more. I pass.
You know.
Yeah, not on political, not on any political anything. No.
Now I'm 45 minutes outside of DC, and I've been to DC many times, and I've always come back. Now, granted,
A2 now, don't go no more.
I know, right? I'm about to say, and I haven't been to DC as an Indian, so
they're gonna have to meet us in Maryland.
So this is gonna be interesting. So yeah, Puck he died on the way there. He had a fall and died. That to me that sounds a little suspicious, but I've been called a conspiracy theorist.
Man, who is he? Humpty Dumpty?
I'm just saying he had a fall.
He had a great fall,
and that's all they said. It says he had a fall. We already know that one chief was killed because he wouldn't sign the treaty. Now you got a chief dying from a fall. So obviously we know that they have no problem with killing chiefs to get things done.
What did he fall from?
Let's just say Apache suffered a fall and died. That's it. They tell him what the fall did, whether he broke his neck. Free said he had a life alert device. Joe 47 said, "Meet you halfway." Right? Hey, bro. Look, listen, man. I'm just saying. Hey, like I said, since I got my my Indian card, I ain't been to DC as an Indian, so this got me a little nervous. Got me a little nervous, I ain't scared of too much, but I'm a little more cautious.
I ain't going.
Really? All right. So I wanted to put that out there because there's a lot of strange things happening when these chiefs are going to the state capital or the nation's capital. And it's funny because it mentioned that he was superstitious and a religious cast of mind. So I don't know. Maybe he wished it on himself. I don't know. So then it goes on to speak about treaties with the U.S. government. Apache was one of the 3 divisional chiefs among the Choctaw, Mississippi by 1801. He represented the western division of the people known as Oclafalaya clan, tall people. So this is interesting. This clan was known as the tall people because they described him as tall and looking down looking. They were located in western Mississippi.
Hey.
Okay. I guess shout out to western Mississippi. As such a leader, he signed numerous treaties on behalf of the Choctaw with the U.S. government, including the Treaty of Mount Dexter, Treaty of Fort St. Stephen, and the Treaty of Doak Stand. By these land secessions, the Choctaw hoped to end European American encroachment on their lands, but new settlers kept arriving and entering their territory. The U.S. government did not enforce the treaty provisions. So think about this. If you keep signing numerous treaties with the hopes of stopping encroachment and they keep encroaching, and maybe this is just me, because I'm a little hard-headed, wouldn't you stop signing treaties? Because obviously it's not working.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I could be missing something.
No I can't write no more.
Peace.
Man, you signed this? Oh, this ain't no good. Or more blank.
Peace, Pamela Hall. Hope all is well. Yeah, it says he was nearly 80 years old when he made the trip, the 1824 trip, with the other principal chiefs, Mushalatubi and Pushmataha, to protest settler violations made against the Treaty of Doak Stand. The Choctaw delegations also included Talking Warrior, Red Fort, Nita Kachi, Colonel Robert Cole, and David Folsom, both Choctaw of mixed race, Captain Daniel McCurtain, and Major John Pitchlin, the U.S. interpreter. Remember, the U.S. John Pitchlin, the U.S. interpreter, had a Choctaw wife. So before we go any further, there are 3 treaties that are mentioned. That's the Treaty of Mount Dexter, the Treaty of St. Fort Stevens, and the Treaty of Doak Stand. Should we go on and read about these treaties to gain further understanding, or no?
Yeah, we
can. Like treaties.
Yeah, because the treaties are letting you know what chiefs and what Indians were relocated. So yeah, it comes in handy.
All right, so we're gonna look at the Treaty of Mount Dexter first, and I will put this in the chat.
That ain't what Dexter's laboratory is it?
I hope not.
Hey, it might be. Laboratory.
And again, we put this information in not only for you to be able to go along or read along if possible, but also to catch any mistakes that we've made or anything that we could have possibly missed that's of importance. So it's also a way to help keep us accountable, just as a reminder. So, Treaty of Mount Dexter. The Treaty of Mount Dexter was signed between the United States and the Choctaws. The treaty was signed November 16, 1805. The 4,142,720 acres seceded was from Natchez District to the Tombigbee, Alabama River watershed, mostly in present-day Mississippi. It said the terms. Ooh, they got the terms of this. Okay. The preamble begins with Thomas Jefferson, President of the United States of America, by James Robertson of Tennessee and Silas Dinsmore of New Hampshire, agent of the United States to the Choctaws. Choctaw Commissioners, Plenipotentiary of the United States on the one part of the Mingos, chiefs and warriors of the Choctaw Nation of Indians, and council assembled on the other part have entered into the following agreement. So they're telling you what other individuals were involved with the signing of this treaty. So this is interesting because you have James Robertson of Tennessee, and then you have Silas Dinsmore of New Hampshire, and it says he's an agent of the United States to the Choctaws. So I guess he's a representative for the Choctaws, and then he's also a representative for the Mingos. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. So it says Treaty of Mount Dexter, 1805. Cession to the United States Reservation. Consideration, number 2. 3. Payment to certain Indians for past services. So it says payment to certain Indians. I wonder which Indians there's going to be payments to. Claim of John McGrew. 5. Boundaries. 6. A certain former grant confirmed. And 7. When to take effect. So before I go any further, let me read what's in the chat. Joe 47 said they probably signed the treaty and put it right in the trash after the chief turned his hand. You might be right, Joe. LJ Free says, I think the whole treaty signing from their perspective was simply to know whether or not our ancestors were willing to negotiate with them. They never intended on honoring anything they signed. I mean, that's what it seems to be, because it was like, okay, well, we're going to sign this treaty, and once we sign this treaty, we're going to stop the encroachment of the land. And then it's like, well, they keep encroaching, so what are you going to do? Well, let's cede some more land, and then once you sign this treaty, we're gonna stop the secession. Yeah, I would have to agree, Free. So what was the significance of this treaty being signed? This treaty conveyed large amounts of land in what is now southeastern Mississippi and southwestern Alabama, including much of the western portion of Clark County, Alabama, to the United States. In February 1809, a survey was begun to establish the actual boundary lines between the United States and the Choctaw Nation. The United States contract with Silas Dinsmore and Levin Wells for this survey. So they paid Silas Dinsmore and Levin Wells to survey the land. So that's why they was in it. Grand Rising, Arthur Gray. We're still on the Choctaws, and now we're talking about the third chief with his Pukshanubi. And we're talking about the treaty that was signed, that he was a part of, which is the Treaty of Mount Dexter. The link is in the chat, so if you scroll up, you should be able to catch it. So that's where we're at. So the signatories of the treaty, the main signers include Jane Robertson, Silas Dinsmore, Pukshanubi, Mingo Humatusbi. Mingo Humastubi, and Pushmataha. So these were the three chiefs that signed the treaty. Okay. That's pretty much what it says about that treaty. So it's nothing. Okay, so they got the terms, which was what I read: significance, signatories. So it was pretty basic. They just basically ceded portions of Mississippi and Alabama over to the United States with an effective date. So we can close that one out. So that didn't seem to be, for lack of a better term, and concerns to how many other treaties that were signed, too significant. But when you start adding all these treaties up, they're basically ceding whole states. You talk about millions of acres. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the Treaty of Fort St. Stevens. And I will also put that in the chat. So I'm waiting for it to come up. My mentality when it comes to the signs of these treaties is like, I guess they were just hoping eventually the United States or the government or the French or the Spanish or whoever they were signing these treaties with would eventually do what they said they was going to do. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm missing something a little slow. Hold on, this is not coming up. Okay. So this is from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Take it with a grain of salt. Like I said, hopefully if we can get Doodle Vision up here, he could talk about these treaties. He might be able to shed some more light, because we know that his fifth or sixth time great grandfather was killed for not signing the treaty of the I'm gonna just call it the Dancing Rabbit Treaty, the Dancing Rabbit Creek Treaty. So let's look at this Treaty of Fort St. Stephen, shall we? It talks about the approximate area to be ceded, shaded in the yellow in the relation to the future U.S. state of Mississippi. It says the Treaty of Fort St. Stevens, or Treaty of Choctaw Trading House, was signed between the United States and the Choctaws. The treaty was signed at the Choctaw Trading House on October 24th, 1816. It ceded 10,000 acres of Choctaw land east of the Tombigbee River. The land was exchanged for 6,000 US dollars annually for 20 years. In 2008 dollars, that would be nearly $80,000. So for 20 years, they received what the equivalent of $80,000 a year. Anybody knows anything about land, you know that's pennies on a dollar. So, so the preamble reads, or the terms reads, James Madison, President of the United States of America, by General John Coffee, John Rhea, and John McKee, Esquires, Commissioners of the Part of the United States, duly authorized for the purposes on the one part, and the Mingos, leaders, captains, and warriors of the Choctaw Nation, and General Council assembled in behalf of themselves and the whole nation on the other part, have entered into the following article, which then ratified by the President of the United States with the advice and consent of the Senate, shall be obligatory on both parties. It says lands to be ceded. Number one, and number two, pay the Choctaw 6,000 US dollars annually for 20 years and $10,000 worth of merchandise. Now, what do you think the merchandise was? Could it have been alcohol? I'm just saying.
No, we read a couple of stories already that's what they was giving them. Barrels of beer and rum, getting them intoxicated and signing deals. The judgment's impaired.
So it breaks down and gives us signatories with John Coffey, John Rhea, John McKee, Mushu Atubi, Pusha Mahala, Pukshanubu, General Terror. That's an interesting last name to have, Terror, spelled Terror. Choctaw Estanoki, General Hummingbird, Talking Warrior, David Folsom, Bob Cole, Ufupa, Hupoi Ikitini, Hupoi Ibiko, and Hupoi Itoma. And the witnesses, that's a third party. T.H.O. H. Williams, Secretary of the Commission, John Pitchland, who's the interpreter, Turner Brochure, an interpreter, M. Mackey, interpreter, Silas Dinsmore, and R. Chamberlain. So y'all notice that they have three interpreters. Remember, John Pitchland, he was an interpreter, and his wife was also Choctaw. So we already know who he's interpreting for. And you got Turner Brochure and M. Mackey, who are both interpreters. Now, we don't know who they're interpreting for. Maybe the Mingos or maybe another tribe. But it's interesting how you see this information here. And it's just crazy. I don't know. Like I said, it's just one of the things that grabs your attention like that. So, is there anything that anybody want to talk about when it comes to this treaty? I mean, even though, and it's sad the way we look at land now, because it's like compared to the last treaty where it was over 1.4 million acres, this one was only 10,000 acres. Again, only 10,000 acres. Now, I don't sit on 10,000 acres. So, I mean, but in comparison to 1.4 million, that's nothing. Go ahead.
Just looking at that map.
So, I don't know. Indigenous intelligence says he was also the cousin of Governor Troup, a planter and slave owner. And when you say he indigenous intelligence, who are you referring to? Are you referring to the chief that we're talking about, Pukshanubu? That's interesting. Oh, he says that I was only mentioning it because it happened right after it sounds like. You're probably right. Uh, I would not doubt it because what you're going to find out is there's a lot of cousins and uncles when it comes to these tribes, not just on the mother side, but on the father side, which is how they appear to have stayed in power. So if you think about Joseph Brant and how his lineage goes all the way down to the Bush family, once he got in power, he intended to stay in power. Oh, you talking about William McIntosh? Okay, thanks for clarifying, indigenous intelligence. Appreciate that, bro. Um, it just lets you know that everything that was done on the European side was very strategic, and even the chiefs who eventually were the sons of these mixed marriages, everything they did was strategic. So it's there's a lot of strategy. That's the word I'm going to use. There was a lot of strategy to this. It wasn't something that was done haphazardly. And like we always like to say on A2, we got to look at our responsibility in this. None of these, you're just not going to take some chief's daughter or niece and just rape her and then marry her to her family. The chief not going to do nothing about it. So that could have happened in some tribes, but I doubt seriously that it happened in every tribe. Especially when you talk about the Algonquins, because they were not a small tribe. And the Choctaws are not a small tribe. And you're looking at this time in history, they're still outnumbering the Europeans. So let's not get this twisted. Did the Europeans have a great hand in our demise? Yes, they did, but we also helped. So I just want to put that out there. We're not relieving them of any responsibility, but we are taking responsibility for our part. And we did play a part, as we can see. So the treaty that we just finished reading was the Treaty of Fort St. Stephen's. And it was also placed in the back check. LJ Free says, strategic cheaters in chess. Yeah, but at the same time, if you realize, think about this, if you realize that you're playing with somebody that's a cheater, and they're in your house, eventually you're going to kick them out, right? Or you're going to burn the house down. I'm just saying. That's just me. Maybe I'm a little extreme. But you're just not going to come up in my house, keep cheating and winning, and think you're just going to be able to stay. Again, that's just me. Alright, so the last of the three treaties that they mentioned that Apache Wars was responsible for signing, and I think this is the more significant treaty, is a treaty of Doak's Stand. So it sounds like there was a battle here. The other two treaties seem to be more a formality of secession than a battle that took place in land being ceded. So once it comes up, I will send you the link, and then we can talk about it, and then we'll move on. Unless someone has something that they want to interject or bring up about the other two treaties that we read about that needs to be corrected. Reload. And of course, the Treaty of Doak's Stand is having technical difficulties. Come on. There it is. I think it might be my connection. So I am placing the Treaty of Doak's Stand in the chat. Again, for not only for you to follow along, but for accountability and correct anything that was stated, or if you are or have Choctaw in your family and there's something that you can add to it, and there's something that we missed or something that needs to be corrected, please feel free to do so. So the Treaty of Doak's Stand. The Treaty of Doak's Stand, 7 September 7 Stat. 210, also known as a treaty with the Choctaw, was signed on October 1820, proclaimed on January 8th, 1821, between the United States and the Choctaw Indian tribe. Based on the terms of the accord, the Choctaw agreed to give up approximately one half of their remaining Choctaw homeland. One half? That's like somebody coming into your house and saying, we're going to take everything from the living room back.
And what gave them the right to ask for one half?
Yeah.
Grand Rising, Mark Walton. One half of their remaining Choctaw. So basically, we already took, 1.4 million acres, and then we came and took another 10,000 acres. But you know what? That wasn't enough. So to keep these people from further encroaching on your land, we're going to need another half of your remaining land. So,
not to be funny, but don't that sound like some mafia stuff?
I know, right? You need protection.
But you need protection, we keep you safe, but we need more of your property to make sure ain't nobody coming on your property. For real?
Right, because we gotta have a place to put them. So it says in October 1820, Andrew Jackson and Thomas Hines were sent as commissioners who represented the United States to negotiate a treaty to surrender a large portion of Choctaw country in Mississippi. They met with tribal representatives at Doak Stand on the Natchez Trace. They met with the chiefs Pushmahata, Bushalatubi, and Apakshunubi, who represented the three major regional divisions of the Choctaw. Chiefs of the towns and other prominent men accompanied them, such as Colonel Silas Dinsmore. Dinsmore was a former U.S. Indian agent to the Choctaw. His passport ruling in 1812 had stirred a brief controversy with General Andrew Jackson. Dinsmore was at the negotiations to settle a land claim. He believed the policy of the American government toward the Indian tribes was too harsh. His attitude suggested a potential confrontation, but Andrew Jackson paid no attention to him. So Dinsmore seems like he sided with the Choctaw. Let me go ahead and read what an Indian agent is, because I haven't read the definition of that. Does anybody know what an Indian agent is? I think I know, but I want to make sure.
I'm not sure exactly. I'd like to know.
All right. Because Free said Indian agent. Did I hear that right? Yes, Free. And I put it in the back chat. This is for the similar role in Canada. See Indian agent Canada. In the United States and Canadian history, an Indian agent was an individual authorized to interact with Native American tribes on behalf of the United States government. Indian agents. The federal regulations of Indian affairs in the United States first included development of the position of Indian agent in 1793 under the Second Trade and Intercourse Act, or the Non-Intercourse Act. This required land sales from Indians to be federally licensed and permitted. The legislation also authorized the President of the United States to appoint such persons from time to time as temporary agents to reside among the Indians and guide them into acculturation of American society by changing their agriculture practice and their domestic activities. Eventually, the government ceased using the term temporarily from the Indian agent's job title. These people were plants. Did y'all catch that?
Yep.
These people were agents.
They were agents. It said the President of the United States appointed such persons from time to time as temporary agents to reside among the Indians. So these individuals were living with the Indians and guide them into acculturation of American society by changing their agricultural practice and domestic activities. I'm going to read that again. Guide them into acculturation of American society by changing their agricultural practices and domestic activities. I can hear Free not going
And that's how
blue.
you do it. Think about it. You come in, you change a person's ability to provide their own food, the things that they naturally have, and you bring a whole bunch of foreign stuff in. Now, who are you dependent on for your food and resources? The foreigner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now, the stuff that you're eating and growing and the lifestyle you live in, you're not living your own. You're studying theirs. So that keeps you eating out of their hand. I'm like, wow.
So it talks about the Indian agents from 1800 to the 1840s. It says from the close of the 18th century to nearly 1869, Congress maintained the position that it was legally responsible for the protection of Indians from non-Indians. And in establishing this responsibility, it continued to deal with the Indian tribes by utilizing agents to negotiate treaties under the jurisdiction of the Department of War. Now, why would you need to be dealing with Indian tribes to utilize agents to negotiate treaties under the jurisdiction of the Department of War? Because you're having Indians fighting Indians, and then you have to deal with Indian chiefs. Because remember, war chiefs are only powerful or only in power as long as they're at war. And if you think about it, these war chiefs had fathers who were European. And as long as there was a war, they were able to sign these treaties. So if I keep you fighting, I can keep my chief in control of who signs the treaties because there's a war. Exactly. And indigenous intelligence says 100% I just call them mixed breeds who want to control the market. And you know what? Indigenous intelligence, that's a good point. However, in order for them to be a mixed breed, they had to have mixed with a full breed. That means it was allowed. That means it was permitted. That means some chief who was a full bred chief allowed a European to sleep with his daughter or his niece or his sister. So I'm just saying, gotta take responsibility for that. But I see your point.
Don't forget, it took the women of the village that also turned around and voted this mixed race child as a chief.
Mm-hmm.
So we cannot keep stepping away like we're innocent. Well, just as guilty.
Exactly. So from the chief to the council, it was a full agreement. And Pamela Hall says that what they was doing, I found that out. Shout out to Copper Color Queen. Grand Rising. Hopefully you get to your destination safely.
Grand Rising.
And we're talking about these Indian agents because I didn't know. I had an idea what an Indian agent was, but I didn't realize it was this in depth. That these individuals were placed in the tribes as basically as spies and to change their agriculture and to get them accustomed to the American ways or to the European ways. And it says initially.
I wonder who these Indian agents look like. I don't think they look European.
Probably not. We'll have to probably look at some European agents. I mean, some European.
If you have an agent among a people, the agent will have to be of the people. You can't send an agent that don't fit in. How can he spy? Every place he go, he looks.
Well, you got to figure. Yeah, you got to figure. By this time, this is the 1800s. Remember, they've been dealing with our ancestors since the 1500s up north, and since the 16 and 1700s when you get further south.
Mm-hmm.
So this is 1800. So you're talking about over 200 to 250 years. So this is nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
So they were probably mixed.
Yeah, mixed. That would make sense. They can go back and forth and nobody think twice.
Right. So it says initially and before the reforms of the 19th century, an Indian agent's average duties were as follows: work towards preventing conflict between settlers and Indians. He was to keep an eye out for violations of intercourse laws and to report them to superintendents. Violation of intercourse laws. Okay, we got to get back.
How you would take power. Once you got power, you wouldn't want nobody else to get power the same way. It would make sense why they made the intermarriage and stuff illegal after a certain point in time, because they didn't want nobody else getting in. Because by then, the Indians probably learned, okay, y'all infiltrated our system like that. We can do the same thing.
Right.
So to make sure it don't happen to you, you outlaw it.
So yeah. So intercourse law. That is crazy. So it says maintain flexible cooperation with U.S. Army military personnel. See to the proper distribution of annuities granted by the state or federal government to various Indian tribes, and this usually occurred through a transfer of money or goods from the Indian agent to the respective chief, which would then be distributed to the tribe, although this practice went into decline by the mid-1800s, and also to see the successful removal of tribes from areas procured for settlements to reservations. In the 1830s, the primary role of Indian agent was to assist in commercial trading supervision between traders and Indians. While agents possessed the authority to both issue and revoke commercial trading licenses. I'll read that again. While agents possessed the authority to both issue and revoke commercial trading licenses.
What is that?
What you hanging around for?
No, what is that job called now? I forgot the title of that. The people that control trade, import, export. That has a title.
I don't know.
That sounded like what the Indian agents became over time.
Yeah.
The overseers of trade.
Yeah.
Of commerce. American bankers. You know what?
Man.
In 1849, the Bureau of Indian Affairs decided to place the position of Indian agent under civilian jurisdiction. This came at a time when many white Americans saw the role of Indian agent as largely inefficient and dishonest in monetary and servility dealings with various Indian tribes.
For the last of the hijack.
So you say
we don't think the Indians need to be the middleman for the Indians.
Yeah, no, we can't have that.
Make sure they getting too many deals and they sympathetic towards their people.
Which basically confirmed what you was talking about. Because why would you feel that the dealings were unfair if it was happening between European, if the Indian agent was a European, but if he was mixed and he was more sympathetic to his tribe, then yeah, I can see that was happening. And Copper Color Queen says, I've never heard of an Indian agent before. It explains how things were switched over. Copper Color Queen, I heard the term mentioned, but I didn't know what they did specifically. So now we know. LJ Free reads, I can't curse you, but I can cause you to curse yourself. Life is in the blood. We got off code and became subjects on our own land. Facts.
We went from being the producers to the consumers.
And this is exactly shows how we did it. Go ahead, Bones. I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah, and people should realize that, because who consumes more than everything now? We consume more than everybody.
Yep.
When we used to produce everything for everybody, we produce nothing, consume it all. Wow.
And here's an example of how it happened. Pamela Hall says, really the mixed breeds chief, they was getting rid of the original chief and they were killing off half the tribe. It was a lot of underhand mess going on. Yeah, it was, Pamela Hall, but you got to realize too, there's another mixed breed of children that they're not talking about. And those are the mixed breed of children who had fathers that were Indians and mothers who were white or slaves. So they
were locked out.
Yep. So we got to keep that in mind too. See, because we're only seeing one version of it, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, you got two sets, because as long as your mother was an Indian and your father was a European, you had a chance of rising up and becoming somebody.
Yeah, but
now that you was on the other foot.
Yeah, if your father was an Indian, right? If your father was an Indian and your mother was a slave, or your mother was European, you had nothing because she had nothing. Think about that. Remember,
if your mother was a European slave, what happened? What did they tell us they did with them children?
They became slaves for life. Slaves for life.
Exactly. Keep the storyline. Y'all can see the two sides forming. You can see the two sides forming.
Copper Color Queen said they were brokering deals. Of course they were. LJ Free says, IA Indian agent, AI artificial intelligence. Come on now. Yep, $1 trillion consumerism. We consume more than anybody on the planet. We are the major consumers. Grand Rising, Big Hawk. Mikhail Brown says, Bones, you're right on the bankers. That's why my grandmother didn't want to do business with them. So now we're starting to see where the change of power is starting to take place. See, in order for them to get control of the commerce, they had to get into our families. But we had to let them in. We let them in the front door. They didn't break the front door down. Because like I said, during the 1700s, your ship could not come within 14 miles of the shore, which basically means you was only bringing on 5 people at a time.
Facts.
Now, I know for a fact my tribe was in charge of the waterways. You not coming up, you not sneaking up on nobody.
No. Too many of us. No, that wasn't happening.
So we saw you come up on the land. So if you came up with some guns, there was only 5 of y'all, oh, you was getting murked on the spot. Because think about it, I got to go back and get the rest of you. So if I'm bringing 6 with me, one's got to go back to get the rest of them. So if you could tell me how 5 people got on land and whooped the whole tribe, now we could talk about something. But until then, let's be realistic, people.
I ain't gonna be able to do it. No. And like we said, you can see the two sides rising. The children who had prominent fathers and the children who were trapped in slavery.
Because they existed.
You see it, you see it happening. I bet you, once we read the other side, I'm willing to bet on the other side of this war, we're going to read about the reverse.
It's possible.
Aboriginal, Indian fathers and European mothers. I'm just having a feeling that that's what we're going to see on the other side.
Well, you may not hear about them because only the tribes know about them. Because if you think about it, because from the European side, they're about power, gaining power. So you figure it's the men that are marrying the women who have control. So, so that's the situation there. So we would actually have to hear from the Indians, the tribes, about the Indian men who were marrying or having children by the European women or the slaves.
So, we know they exist because they start taking power by the turn of the 1900s.
And we know they exist because the Catawba Sioux went and got a lot of those white women and brought them back as slaves.
Brought them back over as slaves,
So we know that. I know that's a fact.
We see them on the shipping records being sent over here. Like I said, 8.8 million European women and children got sent over here.
So let's not ignore our part in it. No matter how small you believe it was, we still played a part. We still have to accept responsibility for that. Again, I can't.
I just thought of something, not to cut you off.
No, go ahead, bro.
We know tribes adopted families, right?
Yep.
Wouldn't it be more logical for them to adopt these families that came over here with mothers and children and no fathers?
Mm-hmm.
You would take care of a woman and her child before you take in a dude.
That's true.
It's more natural to do it that way.
This is true.
Could it be you don't hear about them because they became absorbed in a lot of these tribes? Because I'm thinking there's a whole lot of mulatto children that these prominent European men can't be responsible for all of these children.
Right.
Facts.
We read about whole mulatto tribes on the West Coast to where wasn't nobody a dark skin, whole tribe mulatto.
Where they come from.
Exactly.
And Mikhail Brown said that goes for the day's time. That's why the European always support the copper Indian woman and their child. It's common sense. LJ Free says, yep, take it back to the streets. Our energy speaks for itself. You can't just roll up on our block and run roughshod. We definitely have culpability in our current predicament. Arthur Gray reads, I have heard of Indian agent in the Sarah Rector story, richest colored girl in the world. That's interesting. I have to check that out. I've heard of Sarah Richter, but I never knew who she was. So if you have a link to that, Arthur Gray, just drop it in the chat if you don't mind. Or email it to us. Mikael Brown reads, because the woman gives birth, the men go off to war, go out and hustle, and the child is right there with the mother. That's facts. So I'm gonna go ahead and read a little bit more about the Indian agents.
Mm-hmm.
So we see how they are embedded into these tribes and influential in changing the culture of these tribes. It says by 1850, many citizens had been calling for reform of the agents in the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Their wish had been granted when, in 1869, the Bureau created the Civilian Control Board of Indian Commissioners. The Civilian Controlled Board of Indian Commissioners. The board never more deeply felt that Indian agents should be appointed solely for merit and fitness for their work, and should be retained in the service when they prove themselves to be efficient and helpful by their character and moral influence. This civilian run board was charged with responsibility for supervising the disbursement of Indian appropriations from state and federal governments. However, the United States Army Command was extremely dissatisfied to the transfer of the Bureau of Indian Affairs with the Department of War to the Department of Interior by 1849. So they began to make public complaints about the corruptive nature of the civilian presence in the job of Indian agents. Despite its deeply felt convictions that its Indian agents were appointed and removed on merit, the Civilian Board of Commissioners was frequently deemed corrupt, portrayed derogatorily in print and propaganda, and it inadvertently assumed the scapegoat for the perceived inefficiency of Indian white affairs, the Indian agent. By the late 19th century, the job title of Indian agent began to change slightly in the wake of the recent attempts to civilize Indians, assimilating them into American culture. Despite the public scorn for the agents, the Indian office stated that the chief duty of the agent is to induce his Indian to labor in civilized pursuits. To attain this end, every possible influence should be brought to bear, and in proportion as it is attained, an agent is successful or unsuccessful.
I got a question.
What's up?
Labor in civilized pursuits.
Mm-hmm.
Translation: it was the start of converting the Indians into a labor force.
Thanks for that link, Arthur Gray. We appreciate it.
If you think about it, if you break that down, it's the start of training the American Indian to be a worker.
Man, I'm speechless right now.
Because, see, you can see the split between the military and the civilian branch. See, the military was using them for military influence and gaining. Then, all of a sudden, the civilian purpose, the civilian transferred it from war to the economics of the country.
Yeah.
Because you can see at this time, this is when America started producing massively.
Mm-hmm. Because this is shortly after oil was starting to be discovered in Oklahoma.
Railroads are starting to be built and laid down. Towns are starting to pop up.
Rivers are starting to be dammed and control more tighter and stricter control of the waterways. Do y'all realize that there's an average of between 15 to 30 dams in every state?
Yep.
Welcome back, Joe.
Hey.
So just something to think about. Don't believe me. Do your research.
Mm-hmm.
It says by the late 19th century, the job title of Indian agent began to change slightly in the wake of the recent attempts of civilized Indians, assimilating them into American culture. Despite the public scorn of the agents, the Indian office stated that the chief duty of the agent is to induce its Indian to labor in civilized pursuits. To attain this end, every possible influence should be brought to bear, and in proportion as it is attained, an agent is successful or unsuccessful. By the 1870s, due to President Grant's peace policy, the average Indian agent was primarily nominated by various Christian denominations due to the increase in civilization's reforms to Indian white affairs, especially over land. Part of the Christian message of reform carried out by the Indian agents demonstrated the pervasive thought of Indian and land ownership of the late 19th century. Civilization can only be possible when Indians cease communal living in favor of private ownership. Boom!
Made you become
Break
made
up.
you turn it back on the collective and picked up individualism.
So I'm going to repeat that. Part of the Christian message of reform carried out by the Indian agents demonstrated the pervasive thought of Indian land ownership of the 19th century. Civilization can only be possible when Indians cease communal living in favor of private ownership, not being tribal. Private ownership.
What year is this again?
1870s.
Okay, this is 1870s when this started.
Mm-hmm.
Is it right after this? Is the big influx of our ancestors leaving the country, going to the cities?
Basically, yeah.
The industrial city boom starts at the beginning of the 1900s. Wow.
So we were communal people. We were tribal. We took care of one another. We looked out for one another. We made sure that we were on code. We had peaceful agreements. We were radical with our peaceful agreements when you look at the blood for blood rule. But at the end of the day, if I could keep you from killing another tribal member by saying, if I kill one of your tribal members and we owe you a life, there's not gonna be too many wars. But the moment that was removed, which Greenwood LaFleur was responsible for, now all bets are off. Oh, so that means I can go take another Indian life and there's no retribution. We allowed that to happen. Ain't nobody come in and take that from us, so let's not get that twisted. So the goal was to prevent our ancestors from being communal and stop being individual. So think about this now. Think about the way that we raise our kids now. By the time they're 18, you kick them out. We kick them out the house, right? You gotta go get your own spot. Gotta go do your own thing. We've always been communal, but we no longer do that. It's all about go get your own, because at the end of the day, if we stay together and stop purchasing land as a family or transferring land as a family, then we go back to the way we were doing things, right?
Facts. And look at it this way. Ain't in our culture, we're the ones that come in with the belief it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah, that's always been our culture.
You know, it's kind of funny that we were raised that neighbors can check you when you're out of line.
Yep.
That any other adult of your community could discipline you if you was out of line. Mm-hmm. Now let's go back to the 70s and 80s. Some of us remember the big push of the U.S. government removing that from our households.
Yep.
Now you tie that into, you know that their agenda was to make us individuals. Oh, can't nobody tell my child what to do? Don't you talk to my child. I don't care if he was wrong. Wow.
And Wakila Music, so forgive me, sis, if I'm mispronouncing your name. She puts Indian agents today equals pastors, and you're absolutely right, because churches are 501c. And you got to remember, before there were universities on these Indian lands, they were churches. And these churches were actual Indian schools. And then they turned these Indian schools into universities. And these universities still sit on Indian land to this day. So, Wakila Music, Grand Rising, thanks for pointing that out. Copper Color Queen says, disconnected the tribal heritage. Yeah, most definitely. So the whole goal was to get rid of the village. That was the whole goal. Because as long as we're together, we scare the crap out of them. That's the reason why they have you can't gather in large groups. We're the only people they don't like gathering in large groups. Why is that?
Yep. Straight separation tactics all the time. Unless it's in
about it.
Public housing.
Now even take that. No, even take that there. Now it explains why they always in our neighborhoods rebuilding, why they always in our neighborhood gentrifying it. You understand? To push us out so we don't reconnect with each other. They rather we reconnect with everybody else, like you said, but each other. And they spend billions a year doing that.
Antonio says even more of the detachment is a conscious decision by the church to promote capitalistic thinking, greed instead of harmonious living. Well, they get paid to do that. They get tax breaks to do that. So again, the church was the passive aggressive way of indoctrination. That's how they ease everything in, Antonio. So
peace to the chat. Peace with Keela Music, Antonio Batiste, Copper Color Queen. Anybody else that just came in?
Antonio says the problem is, well, at least for me, is as a Christian, is how people throw away the whole Christian belief because of these centuries of imposters and heretics. Well, again, that's part of the plan. We've always been spiritual people, and again, that's the reason why I was banging so hard on the fact that you can't tell me about my spirituality if you don't know my tribe. You can't tell me what my relationship with the Creator is if you don't know my tribe, and I can't tell you that if I don't know my tribe. So I could be tying into somebody else's spirituality that takes me away from my ancestors, opposed to bringing me to my ancestors.
I'll put it like this: the slave master praying for one thing, and the so-called slave praying for another. Somebody wrong in that equation. I'm gonna leave it at that. Slave and master can't pray to the same deity. Somebody's wrong in that equation. Somebody finna be told no.
And we also got to remember that the original Bible, or the King James version of the Bible, was written in Algonquin. So at the end of the day, we have to, again, find your tribes, because this is deep. So their whole point was to basically break up the communal living. It's right here. I mean, again, take it with a grain of salt, but everything that they've done so far has led up to what's actually happened. We went from being a communal family to living in our own homes. And now people don't even want to go back to their tribes. They want to start their own tribes. That's basically what's happening now.
Yeah, they made us separate so far from ourselves that we hate ourselves. Think about it. We naturally hate each other.
Yeah, so instead of me going back home where there's already land, where there's already treaties, where there's already an agreement, I'm going to start my own. I don't want what you had. I don't want that communal living. I want to start my own communal living. I want to have my own laws. So therefore, if anybody that's doing that, basically what you're doing is perpetuating what they've already started. You're getting away from tribal law. You're getting away from tribal ways. That's what you're doing.
Peace nonetheless, Grand Rising. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize our ancestors, their way of life was private because we kept our families private. That each tribe had a different way of handling things and going about things, and it remained private or sacred among some tribes. No different than being like, oh, what y'all old folks know, we ain't gonna listen to y'all. It's our time. Think about it. We hear that now from younger generations.
Mm-hmm. Antonio says, nah, check the church is my mission. But it doesn't. It does start with yourself, and then your home, and then your community. Because at the end of the day, churches are nonprofit organizations, bro. You could check the church. You could talk to the church, but at the end of the day, in many churches, the pastor don't run anything. The pastor's like the chief.
Yeah.
He does what they tell him to do.
Congregation can remove. Think about it. A congregation can remove a pastor at any given time. All they got to do is vote him out.
Yep.
That's it. He can be voted out. Think about all churches have member boards, have board of directors and stuff.
And I actually have a company that actually does background checks. And there are lots of churches that use our services to run background checks on pastors. And their churches have been up and running for like, 50, 60, 70, almost 100 years. So they'll replace a pastor in a minute.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, get back to your tribes, man. Find out what your tribe's spiritual practice was, because that's what's going to tie you to your people at the end of the day. So again, my job is not to tell somebody what their religion should be. Again, the safest thing for me to tell you is get with your tribe. They'll tell you what your religious practice was.
Yeah, find your people. If you want to get back to the source to make sure you're on code, find your people, find your ancestral ways. Then once you hear that information, then you can make a conscious decision on what direction you want to go.
Right.
You're just picking up something that somebody gave your people, that gave your people, that gave your people, that gave your people, that gave your people. We have to start researching things. It's okay to believe whatever you want to believe. All we're saying is research it. So you're not believing somebody else's ideology. You're not believing and perpetrating somebody else's lifestyle as your own. And you wonder why things don't, why things are not working out for you in some time. It's because you're following somebody else's spirituality and ways. That wasn't meant for you. That wasn't designed for you.
Yeah, Copper Color Queens.
All nations have particular responsibilities. Oh, good.
Do a mic check, Bones. You come in a little shaky. Copper Color Queen says, think back to how your grandparents lived their lives privately. I know mine did. So that's a tribal tradition. Mark Wallace says, anybody have a video on who taught what in different tribes? When you say who taught what do you mean, Mark? Joe 47 says, I've done my research on all these religions and who came up with them. None of them look us. They are all pale face. Okay, you say none of them look like them. Again, Joe, the goal is not to tell people what their religious beliefs should be. That's personal. All I'm saying is, if you want to find out where your what the roots of your spirituality is, tie to your tribes. So what somebody's personal preference is as far as religion, that's their own that's their own business. Because I'm sure there are Indians that have many different practices. Grand Rising Trap. So
peace. And that word too, we need to kind of break down religion. See, religion and spirituality are two different things. And this is where we have to be clear on. Religion and spirituality was somebody's culture placed on top of it. I'm finna say it again. Religion is spirituality with somebody else's culture placed on top of it. That's the difference.
Yeah.
That's all you have to study. A religion are traits that people picked up from their homeland and they attached it to their spirituality. Particular holidays, particular rituals, particular ways of dressing and talking at particular times. That has nothing to do with your spirituality.
Yeah, we got you, Joe. We understand that's what you're saying, bro. We're just trying to let everybody else know what's going on, because there are people that are listening that might not be able to see the chat. So we got you, bro. We understand what you're saying.
All day, every.
Free says religion is a realignment meant to group masses together based on dogma and doctrine. Yep. Trab says traditions turn to religions. Yeah, we all basically saying the same thing. At least from my perspective. I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first one or the last time. So let's talk about, man, how do we end up going on all these daggone tangents, bro? We went to Indian agents, and that's basically what this build has been about. But it's important because it needed to be looked at. Again,
Yeah, because see the effects. You can see the cause of these effects of today. You can actually see the cause of these effects. And the further and further we move up through these wars, it's going to get more clarity. We're still in the American Revolution on one side of the battle.
Exactly. So I'm gonna read a little bit about the Indian agents mid to late 19th century. So we're talking about the 1800s, right? Mid 1800s to going into the 1900s. So by 1850, many citizens had been calling for reform of the agents in the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Okay, so their wishes were granted. So by the 19th century, the job title of the Indian agent began to change slightly to await the recent attempts of civilized Indians. We already read that. By the 1870s, due to Grant's peace policy, the average Indian age was primarily nominated by various Christian denominations. So we already talked about that. Um, so civilization can only be possible where Indians cease communal living in favor of private ownership. Many citizens still held the activities of Indian agents in poor esteem, calling the agents themselves unprincipled opportunists and people of low quality. I mean, they really didn't like these people. In the 1880 instruction to Indian agents, it states the job duties of the Indian agents as follows. So pay attention to this. According to 1880 instructions, this is what an Indian agent's job was. See that Indians in one's designated locality are not idle for what of an opportunity to labor or of instructions as to how to go to work. And absolutely, no work must be given to white men which can be done by Indians. See to it that Indians under one's jurisdiction can farm successfully and solely for the substance of their respective family. Enforce prohibition of liquor. Both provide and supervise the instructions of English education and industrial training for Indian children. Allow Indians to leave the reservation only if they have acquired a permit for such. Permits were only irregularly granted. And as of July 1884, Indian agents were to compile an annual report of their reservations for submission aimed at collecting the following information from Indian respondents: Indian name, English name, relationship, sex, and name among other statistical information. So, one of the things that's important to pay attention to is we're talking close to the 1900s. The question needs to be asked, why do they need to enforce prohibition of liquor? Why do they need to enforce prohibition of liquor? This is one of the Indian agents' jobs, mind you. They need to enforce prohibition of liquor. Why? Because they have made these Indians alcoholics. Because part of the
dependent on
right, part of the gifts that they were given for this land was liquor.
Now check this out.
Go ahead.
1880, they're enforcing labor, right? They're enforcing the Indians to farm and to work, right? Can somebody please show me where in history there's the Indians that they want you to believe that was here on these farms? Can somebody show me the successful farmed Indians at the top of the 1900s, 1910, 1920? And to bring something out, the Indian agent in the 1880s, 1890s was to help the Indian transform his agricultural procedures, right?
Yeah.
Let's remember 1930, the Dust Bowl. What was the Dust Bowl and how did it start? Because they changed agriculture and the land wasn't right no more and the soil was gone. Windstorm came through, caused the dust. It's all falling in the line if you study it. The Dust Bowl happened because they changed the way they did agriculture. Now they're telling you in 1880s that they taught the Indian to change agriculture. Kind of funny. After 1865, who did they make labor laws against? Who couldn't be caught stagnant? The Negro, right? Who had to be working? The Negro, right? And at this time, ain't the Indian the Negro?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm just
According to the census.
making sure my brain.
According to the census.
According to the census.
Yeah.
According to the census, the Indian is the Negro. They can't spell it out for you anymore.
It says so. Indian agents in the 20th century says when Theodore Roosevelt reached the presidency at the turn of the 20th century, 1901 through 1909, the Indian agents that remained on the government payroll were all replaced by school superintendents.
I was waiting for you to get to that point. I was waiting for you to get there. I'm over here, both legs and hands. Like, woo!
Superintendent.
So I'll read it again. When Theodore Roosevelt reached the presidency at the turn of the 20th century, which is 1901 through 1909, the Indian agents that remained on the government payroll were all replaced by school superintendents. Super.
Oh, Pamela Hall. Yeah, you had some Mongolian ancestries here. They came over in the 1800s to work on the railroads. Over 307,000 of them.
Yeah.
The question is, nobody asks, where did they go after the railroads? Sent them out west to the reservations. That's documented.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you see more of your Mongoloid-looking type tribes further west, because that's where they sent them.
Joe 47 says, say it ain't so, TMH. I would love to say it ain't so, but
it is. Oh, no.
The Indian agents were replaced by school superintendents. LJ Free said that makes the etymology of the word education make so much sense in context.
Yes, it does.
Now think about this. If you think of the typical melanated community, or what the people are known as the black community, African American community, there's a church and liquor store in every community.
Dun dun. Multiple churches and liquor stores in our community. I done seen corners where there's a church on all four corners. I'm like, wow.
I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Joe 47 says almost every other block. And the reason why they needed to get them off the alcohol was because... I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, no sell out.
No, I was just chiming in on the churches. Go ahead.
Now, if you think about it, the reason why they need to have a prohibition on alcohol because it's hard to get an alcoholic to do some work. And
they needed a workforce.
Right. If they can get the Indian to do it instead of the European, then that means we got to get you sober or we got to keep you sober. So we need to enforce the alcohol prohibition. Now think about it. This is before the majority of the lower 48 went dry.
Yep. This is way before moonshine runs and all this.
See, so let's look at it from this way. Could it be the reason why prohibition actually took effect was because they needed sober workers? Not for religious reasons. They needed sober workers. Because I don't know about you, but I can only speak from personal experience. I've been around numerous Europeans that can drink a whole lot of alcohol and not be fazed.
Yep.
So was prohibition for them or was prohibition for us?
You know it was for us because when they couldn't get it no more and they started writing about it, didn't they lift prohibition of alcohol?
Yep.
It was when they wanted it, when the European wanted easy access to it, prohibition went away.
So Free puts out, she says, so basically there are a lot of gatekeepers that likely don't even know that they're gatekeepers simply by their profession. I would agree with that. What is it that you wanted repeated, Copper Color Queen?
The part about the liquor stores.
Or the part about prohibition? What did you need repeated?
Yeah, think about it. Prohibition started way before your days of moonshine. But that's, oh my goodness, we should known that. Because that form of prohibition there was when they had automobiles that can do runs.
Yep.
See how they try to fool you with history?
Mm-hmm.
And they use imagery to do it. Because see, every time they show you prohibition, they always show you the moonshine runs. But that's almost like 80 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So then they got down here notable agents. Notable Indian agents. There's a lot of names down here. I'm trying to figure out if there are any that's relevant, but
we probably got to do their genealogy, see who they tie into.
There's one named Aaron Freeman, who's an agent to the Choctaw in North Carolina.
Bet not be none of my relatives. With this family reunion, ooh yeah, we're gonna have some serious conversations.
Antonio Batiste says we're being played at this very moment. Bruh, in more ways than one, people are playing checkers, and this is a strategic game of chess.
Yeah, and I'm glad that he brought up the marijuana thing. I really am glad that he touched on that, because this is the one thing our people need to wake up to. If this government is in control of the marijuana and they're growing it, supplying the fertilizer and food for it and the seeds, what do you think they're putting it out here for?
So
we've been unplugging from the system naturally. Most of us are not even participating in voting, the workforce. We're breaking away, going back to doing our own thing, starting our own businesses and stuff now. So what do you do to get people back in the system? Same thing they did with alcohol. You're going to use the marijuana, get people dependent back on them, and pull them back into the system.
Bingo. Antonio, that's a good question. Because here's the thing that we do know. Cigarettes, remember, tobacco was very big in Virginia and North Carolina. This is how strategic they are. They started phasing out tobacco uses in the 80s. Is when they started phasing out. Here in DC, there are areas in DC where you're not even allowed to smoke outside. So they basically had a 20-year gap between cigarettes being easily accommodated, meaning you can get to it, to now there's marijuana. Now there's numerous studies of what they've done to the tobacco plant and how they've infused the nicotine, and every year they put more and more nicotine into the cigarettes. Mm-hmm. So think about it. We know this. There's not anybody that knows anything about nicotine and cigarettes that doesn't know this, right? Mm-hmm. Putting all type of carcinogenics in it. So why is it now? This is how things are cyclical and repetitive. How is it that we believe that marijuana is going to be any different than cigarettes?
And I can show you this much: nature does not grow a marijuana plant over 15% THC naturally. I don't care what you think. So all this new stuff that's out there now, 80%, 71%, 90%, that's all chemically infused. There was a study that was put on this new marijuana that's out there, that the pheromones in it, that when you light it and smoke it, in females, it causes masculinity, and in men, it causes feminism. These are actual studies. That's why some places, see, we have to start paying attention to where some of these cities ain't budging on letting marijuana come in, because they know something. Come on now. They still haven't took marijuana class down. Marijuana is still in the class with heroin and all this other stuff. You better be careful.
Yeah.
They didn't change the class of marijuana. It's still up there with heroin.
Schedule 1.
Be careful, my relatives.
So here's my question. Because we sit back and we can judge these Indians for doing the same thing over and over and over again, but aren't we doing the same thing over and over and over again? Aren't we falling for the same okie doke over and over and over again?
Oh, Copper Colored Queen wanted to hear the superintendent part about the Indian agents becoming superintendent, school superintendents.
Yeah, the Indian agents between after Theodore Roosevelt reached the presidency at the turn of the century, 1901 and 1909, the Indian agents that remained on the government payroll were all replaced by school superintendents. So my question to all of us, how can we, again, it goes back to accountability. How can we sit back and judge our ancestors for falling for the same dumb traps when we're falling for the same dumb traps? You may not have been a cigarette smoker, and I'm not judging. You do what you want to do. I'm just talking from a point of context. This is not a judgment, because the largest room in my house is a room for improvement. I got too much stuff I need to focus on to improve to tell you what to do. But from the standpoint of context and history's sake, if you didn't smoke cigarettes, but you know the history of what the government allowed cigarette companies to do to nicotine, yet you're going to smoke marijuana that's under the same government sanctions and the same FDA approval, why do you think you would be exempt from all those carcinogenics that are infused in cigarettes and weed that's infused in cigarettes? And because they allow you to become a smaller business to sell it, that doesn't make you exempt from it. That makes you culpable. And if go ahead, Bones.
You get the license to sell it, but where's the seeds and everything that goes into the plant? That's coming from the government. Think about it. All weed that's sold in this country through legal means now is produced by the government. If you want to be a grower of legal weed, who you have to be in contact, who you have to have a contract with? The government, don't you?
Correct.
The government.
Man, you around here looking like Smokey on Friday for real.
Get off me, man.
So all they're doing is they're turning the children of the cigarette smokers into addicted marijuana smokers.
Yeah, because right now where I stay, they got hemp cigarettes on sale. I'm finna say it again. I don't know if it made it up north, but in the South, they sell hemp cigarettes now.
Wow.
Matter of fact, when I step out after the show, I'm gonna take a picture of it, post it. It'll be coming north pretty soon.
So all I'm saying, because you could do what you want to do, you grown. I'm just saying, look at it from a historical context point. LJ Free said that's really messed up. As a mother, I remember how conflicted I felt taking my sons to school when they were young. I put them in Indian agent hands.
You sure did.
Now that we think about it, yeah.
We all did.
Take my children to the agents.
Hand them right over.
Yeah. So how can we sit back and be like, oh, the pale face got to go, and you voluntarily took your child to them?
You been did that. And you was grown when you did it.
You got to take them to school. No. You can go to any school district and find out the requirements that the school asks for, and you can do it from your own home.
Trap App says, I remember a couple of years back, Monsanto took over the marijuana seeds.
Monsanto has the patents on all seeds. I don't know why people are playing. If it got a seed, Monsanto own it.
Y'all better stop playing.
And y'all know who Monsanto is?
They losing
Roundup. Monsanto's number one product.
They losing $1 billion lawsuits right now.
Yeah. And what is Roundup? If people don't know what the problem with it is, I'm going to break it down probably less than 2 minutes. Grand Rising, James. Monsanto makes Roundup. So what they did, they made seeds that would not be affected by Roundup. Now, if you understand chemistry and biology, the only way you can do that, you would have to put so much Roundup in the seed.
Right.
It's just like the virus. To make a cure for the virus, you must inject yourself with a small percentage of the virus, and your body makes antibodies for it. It's the same thing with plants. So you're smoking Roundup.
Free says we gotta do better for real, for real. The next seven generations need us. That's for real. So again, we're just as culpable as our ancestors. We may not want to admit it, but we are. So if you were a parent like me that put their child in the public school system, you handed them over to superintendents who used to be Indian agents.
Dun, dun, dun. And the Indian agent job, think about it now that we know that. And now let's look back at school. You know, the school taught us to be individuals. School taught us not to follow our ancestral ways.
Mm-hmm.
That when you really look back at school and you look at the things that we did, it was everything to break you away. Guidance counselors, oh, what's going on in your home life? Your parents talking to you too rough? Do they beat you? Think about it. And it's these same Indian agents that sent a bunch of kids home talking about child abuse.
Yep.
I'm just saying, wow.
And if you break down counselors phonetically, it's conceal ours. Conceal our what? Our history? Or cancel our history? I'm just saying.
Yeah, Trap. That's exactly what Kanye was saying. People got mad at him. But
Peace to Trap bad
it's
in the
always
chat.
a choice.
Baby story.
Yeah, whether it's good or bad, you always have a choice. And yes, the right choice might be harder for you to do, and you might have to struggle a little bit more, but you still do have a choice. You can't choose the bad thing and cry about it.
Grand Rising Jane, Judo Vision. Is there anything that you wanna add? Don't sell out. Do a mic check, bro. You coming in? You sound like a broke Decepticon, bro. I mean,
mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check.
Oh, that's good. Oh, James, you was talking?
Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was just saying you hit the nail right on the head. And I know this is gonna make some people upset, but as the school system was making that transition and placing Indian agents as superintendents, when we had our own schools and we were teaching ourselves, there was never in the lesson plans or in the curriculum that we were not from here. That didn't start until these superintendents were placed over us in these so-called public school systems. When we were segregated, and when they talk about integrated, we're not integrated, we're still desegregated because we're being indoctrinated to a particular system. But prior to that, when we had our own schools, when we were segregated, you never heard that thought that we were never from here. We were always from here. And I'm old enough to remember those candy cigarettes. That's how they started in our neighborhood.
Yep,
at the convenience store.
Yep, damn it, that candy
cool. Yep, it was cool. Remember Joe Cool? It was cool to smoke cigarettes with his shades on.
Every movie, every popular music artist, television person, movie or personality, they always had a cigarette when they was talking. They made it look cool.
So what's now cool? Marijuana, right?
Weed smoking. Why you think every artist they showing you? At one time, think about it. At one time, you show up with a whole bunch of weed, somebody knocking on your door and you going somewhere. Now, they let it play out. So you have to ask yourself, why does the government let it play out?
It gets back to what you were saying earlier, Brother Bones, about what they're putting in there. Now, I want someone to do some research on those in the country called India. We know we're Indians and they aren't Indians, but do some research over there, because when pure tobacco was popular, and they still do it, they roll the pure tobacco and roll their own cigarettes. Did you hear about all this lung cancer and all this other stuff going on over there with those in India?
No, you do not. Any continent that still smoke natural tobacco don't have cancer problems. And that's a fact that can be researched.
And as long as we've been here, we didn't have all this lung cancer and all that stuff. And our people were smoking tobacco. We introduced tobacco to the world. I yield the mic.
And then ask yourself, who made the big push for us to go to their schools?
That was part of the Civil Rights Act, right? That was part of the Civil Rights Movement, right?
Uh-huh.
Who benefited more from civil rights than anybody?
White women.
Okay.
No disrespect, but that's who was the main benefactors of it. And it cleared the way for them to benefit by throwing us all into their system, so that way they can go ahead and be the minority, because they are the largest minority.
And who are the majority of the teachers in our school system?
White women. Come on now, it ain't that hard. And this is nothing against anybody. We just stating the facts.
Wait a minute, gentlemen. Are you all saying the European women that are classified as white now, but were actually classified as black?
Yep.
NAACP, those NAACP founding women, is that what you all referring to? The women, black women that you all are referring to?
Yes. Yeah. See, a lot of people keep using their eyes, Brother James, and when they be hearing that term black, they be looking at skin. No, black means exactly what it means. Dead in the eyes of the law. No rights. That was not us. We had rights ever since the 1800s. Even though they, like TMA said, they would block us from voting. They didn't want us to vote, but we had the legal right to vote since the 1800s. Who didn't?
So they're using that looker shit?
Somebody didn't get the right to drive until what? The 1950s and 60s? I'm finna say it again. There's a class of people in history that everybody keep forgetting about. Everybody keep forgetting about these European mothers that had these mulatto children, and the mothers and the children were considered slaves. I tell everybody, go back and relook at Baker's Rebellion. Who was really the angry class?
Uh-oh, I think we done started something again.
I'm sorry.
Y'all talking about those same women that were convincing Indian women to burn their bras and put their fists up in the air? Those women?
Them ones.
Yeah, that came in and took over the fist in the air that was supposed to mean black power. Yes, it does mean black power, my relatives. Stop looking at the skin.
Oh, man.
Because to this day, ain't that fist in the air the women's movement? And when did we become black? When did they put the title of black on us? Not until 1920.
Was that right after those black women got the right to vote? When that right after 1919?
Yes, it is. Right after they got right to vote, the class system changed and we became black. We became the lower party then.
We became.
And then they came for the Aboriginal woman again when they needed the women's rights movement. And I mentioned this yesterday. At no time in our history, the Aboriginal man had say-so or power to keep the Aboriginal woman down. That was the European woman's fight with her man. and suckered our woman into it to use the energy because they needed the numbers. Ain't that many of them over here? But now, once you put it under the umbrella of a woman, now you tie in all the Aboriginal women, now they got numbers. And that's how they did it. One thing a mother would do everything for is what?
Her child.
I'm going to say it again. A mother would do any and everything for her child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you tell this mother your child will always be a slave, can never be free. Put yourself in them shoes. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying anything justified. We just showing the cause and effect of the conditions that we're in today. What you mistreat in your past will come back to bite you in your future. We must not forget that. We must go back to being righteous judges. We must. We got to fix this.
Antonio says, bruh, stop the chats. LOL, stop the chats. Just stop. It's crazy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send you guys a picture of the feminist movement, and it has a picture of the fist in it. So give me a second. So you won't think we're just making this up.
No, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
No, I'm just putting this picture in there. So James, I saw you drop something in the chat for us. Was that what you was telling us about yesterday?
Yes, sir. The book finally came through. I'm sorry, I was in no man's land yesterday. But while you posting the picture in there, and what it happened to be along after the 1920s, there come the 1930s, the 1940s, where they had the lesbian European woman with her sleeves rolled up, with a bandana tied around her head, flexing. Y'all remember that?
Yep.
She was building airplanes, sir.
Yeah. Who was doing all the work? They built the airplanes during World War II. Who was building everything in the industrial factories? Come on now, Laverne and Shirley. Laverne and Shirley. We ain't gonna play with you.
Not at all. Not at all. So let me put this picture in the chat so y'all can see it for yourselves. So you don't think we just making stuff up, or we just talking just to be talking. Joe 47 says, I missed yesterday's show. I'm gonna have to go back and watch. Yeah, Joe, we was talking about some of the other Choctaw chiefs, but all of it ties in. We try to stay on par, to keep everything connected. So yeah, so I just put the link to that I guess what you call it, a feminist movement with the fist. And then who was it that? Yeah, LJ Free says you said not the original Yes We Can chick. Yes, that's her.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes, we can.
And I put
brother. Yes, we can.
You know how we do around here. We're not gonna just tell you. We're gonna give it to you. And if there's something we missing, hey, please feel free. You got the information. You got the same information we got.
You see the phone number? Get at us. Let us know. Find something that need to be brought out to light. That's what we here for.
I posted it in the wrong chat. And here we go. So the link that I'm just posting is the original Yes We Can poster. And that is your black woman. Not your melanated woman, but your black woman. This poster was from 1943. It said it was reappropriated as a symbol of the feminist movement in the 1980s? So,
Glad you said that, because what happened to us at the end of the 1980s?
We became African American.
And during the 80s, what was the big push that they used women for? Do anybody remember? Do anybody remember what was attached to that? I'm gonna help you out. Janet Reno.
ooh,
Child support came in the 80s. They repped up the so-called food stamp program, removing the mail out the house. Come on now. 1980s wasn't that long ago.
Yep, all that came through, and then the symbol of the welfare chick, all that symbolism started coming in, and then I know I'm gonna make some Indian women mad in the chat, but when y'all talk about things coming full circle, you go back and study the Salem witch trial. That's what that was about. That was European women getting with Indian men, having these mulatto children, and then they were being hung because they were using home remedies, and the European men were saying it was witchcraft. It wasn't about using witchcraft. It was about the fact that they were having these mulatto babies. Now, you come full circle, and these so-called black women, a.k.a. European women, have tricked you Indian women into hating Indian men, and the European woman is taking your man. And now they having mulatto babies, and you're mad about it. You're mad at the Indian man. I'm going to yield the mic. I know I'm going to get hate mail in a minute.
Nothing new under the sun.
not a thing. We falling for the same trap all over again.
No, that's all they did. Because if you think about it, who got in power and put in the child support law? It wasn't a white man. It was a white woman.
Who
increased the benefits if the Aboriginal woman removed the Aboriginal man from the home? A white woman. Now you have to ask yourself, why is that a benefit? Because they never forgot what happened to them. They never forgot what place they was in. They never forgot.
They never forgot what we did to them. As I said, I'm gonna say it again.
To them and their children. To them and their children.
Right. They never
Because
forgot.
we gotta remember, that white woman might not be your family, but guess what? Her child is. We finna say it again. A lot of these mulattoes that y'all thinking are red skin or light skin, melanated people, replay that. All you had to do was have particular curly hair. Your skin could have been white all as white as snow. But if you had particular curly hair, that wide nose, what did they label you as?
Mulatto.
So stop looking at, stop using your eyes. What you consider mulatto today could have been a straight up European back then. As long as he didn't have a European. Because what did they tell you? If they looked at you and you didn't look European, if you looked like you had outside features, you were labeled a mulatto.
Using that ideology.
Yep. Then they started breaking down to all those maroons, quadroon, octoroon, especially down there in New Orleans. I yield the mic.
Yeah, a lot of us see it in our families. That's what I mean. A lot of this stuff, if we took a step back and look at our own personal families, we can see the truth. Because see, a lot of people won't admit it, but a lot of us do have European features in our families. Come on, this is the part where we got to start being honest. A lot of us are related to a lot of these mixed children. A lot of us are here because of these mixed children.
I know that there's a lot of them on my side of the family, especially my father's side.
And not to be a conspiracy theorist, but out of that, these mulatto children, that's where your boule was born. Because they were not accepted. They were not accepted by the Europeans. And then there was animosity between us and them because they had European mothers. So they from their own societies. All these fraternities, that's how they got birth. Because it was that group.
Yeah. Why would you make a secret society and fraternities? Because you locked out of the normal society. See, people don't never look at that. The only reason you make something secret and make your own because you're locked out of the main one. We locked them out, and the Europeans locked them out. Our ancestors stated, won't none of y'all ever get no land in the South. That was documented. So now, look at it this way. For lack of a better word, could it be we in this mess because these bastard children that our ancestors and their ancestors created are running everything now?
I mean, it would be justice. It would be karma, right?
And now, the majority of us in here, we're spiritual beings. I would like to say, I could be wrong. So we know that there's something greater than us. And this greater force allows this condition that we're in right now to play out. Could it be it played out because of the wrong that we have done?
I mean, looks that way.
That our ancestors had children that they disowned.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one thing I'm noticing a lot of, I see Indians and Europeans jockeying for position. Who we don't see at the table?
Us. Because we're not going back home. We're not. We just aren't.
Now, if I'm not going home, but my cousin, you know what I'm saying? His mother's mother married into the family, but by now they blood. You get what I'm saying? 4 or 5 generations in, they're blood now. So if my cousin is going back home and claiming part of his family rights, and I'm not, who is it gonna go to?
Him. Or her.
And the majority of them know who they related to. Genealogy has always been a part of their culture. I wonder why.
Grand Rising Golden Moon, Grand Rising Patrick Gabriel.
Ain't all presidents chosen from a particular family?
It appears that way.
All presidents have a particular line that they share. They all share particular relatives. This is a fact. Now, the two that they say in history that didn't was Kennedy and Lincoln, and we know how that ended. But could it be that they all share the same bloodline because they know that these people come from tribes here? Just listen to what they tell you the requirements is to be president.
And the only way that you can be commander and chief is by being...
You blood. Have to have blood.
Right. So wouldn't the council have to be the same way?
Yep.
Okay.
So your government is nothing but tribes who know they're Indian, who know their tribes, who know that we don't know. So it's going to be business as usual until we wake up and get back on code. Start back minding our business because they definitely minding theirs and ours.
See, y'all messing up the people's heads. You messing up their heads, man. Because the seat of the presidency, everybody look at the seat of the presidency. They don't look at the seat.
Say the last part again, James. You got cut off.
Seat of the commander-in-chief. The commander-in-chief can order a military strike with.
Yeah, you keep going in and out. Dang, I know you're talking a deep one.
Yeah, I know. James, we lost you, bro. He was basically saying the commander-in-chief can order a deep strike.
On their face and confuse you that they are warrior chiefs.
From the top,
but
from
they,
the
they're
top,
not
sir.
doing any strike. Come out the mic.
No. We need you to come back because
From the top, yeah, we lost you.
We lost you.
You only heard the end.
I was just talking about the seat of the commander-in-chief supersedes the seat of being the president, because the president, things have to go through Congress. As the commander-in-chief, you can make a military strike
without Congress. Yep.
Yeah, because Congress can they have to declare an act of war, but you can do any type of military strike. Commander-in-chief, that is your war chief. That's why
Yeah,
I keep telling people this is our government. We set it up for them and they took it. Well, I don't say they took it. We gave it to them.
People hate the government for whatever reason. You hate your ancestors. Stop
Right.
hating.
So when you become the war chief, you can sign treaties and you can declare war. Isn't that what the Algonquins were talking about? Isn't that what they were saying that the Algonquins did? Isn't that what they said that the Mohawks did? Isn't that what they said that the Choctaw did? Your war chiefs make the decisions once they're in position.
Check this out. Hasn't America been at war over 90% of the time? Huh.
So for those of you who are claiming that the United States of America are invaders, no, they're home.
Come on, man. We've been trying to point it out to people the whole time. They are home. Somebody said they don't see Bush as being an Indian. I can tell you right now, the Bush family ties back in to Chief Corn Planter and Joseph Brant. Fourth-time cousins. Yes, they are blood related to this land. We need to stop playing. They know who they are.
So for those of you who are putting in these petitions and separating from the United States of America and separating from the chief of all chiefs, you're separating yourself from your existing tribe.
My question would be: does anybody have an existing tribe and is separating from that existing tribe to be on their own somewhere else?
I don't know. All I have is
we need to know who we are.
Yeah.
I can answer this simple. Yes. As sure as you're calling yourself separating from the United States government, you are separating from your tribe. Let's think about this for a second. If you separate from this government, you just turned your back on your tribe because this government is your ancestral tribe, people.
Yep. You just got
spell it out no easier.
You just got kicked out your own tribe.
The only difference is instead of us running the show, our cousins in there running it.
Yep.
Some of y'all are related. Some of us are related to Chief Corn Planter. So if you're related to Joseph Brant and Chief Corn Planter, guess what?
You related to the Bush family.
Your family.
You play it too much.
Stop playing. Come on, man. Let's stop playing. We playing checkers on a chessboard. Need to stop. They might look the same, but the rules are different.
Very much different.
So there's people who want to separate from the government and kick people who don't look like them out of the way.
Yeah, because the assertion is that the Europeans continue to mix with their own and they never mix with us. So they don't have any rights to this land. When they have more rights to this land than the most melanated of us. And it's not because they're European. It's because they tie into their family tree. They tie into their tribe.
Think about it. A European that's running a business, a 501c, that's in government, he's handling his tribal responsibilities. We off code. We might not like the decisions that they're making, but think about it. They're running the show because we choose not to. You too busy worrying about your cousin. Oh, my cousin need to go home. Well, your cousin is running your home right now. And Auntie said he got more rights because he took on the mantle and you didn't.
That's right. He answered the roll call. You didn't. She answered the roll call. You didn't. You got your whole tribe waiting for you to answer the roll call, but you rather start your own tribe and kick some people out who have actual rights to this land. Good luck with that.
Great luck. Great luck. Grand luck. Grand luck with that.
You got a better chance. Truth be told, you got a better chance of kicking me off the land than you do kicking the president of the United States off. Well, not this president, but the prior presidents of the United States off this land. I'm just saying.
They know who their people is, yo. Just so you know. You got to be a little more prepared. Antonio said, I don't want to go to this family reunion. LOL.
Well, at the end of the day, Antonio, here's the deal. You tie into more than one family. You tie into more than one tribe. Unlike the Bush family, they only tie in through their mother. You can tie into a tribe through your mother and or your father, because your father has a mother. See, that's what separates us. That's what we keep forgetting.
Facts. And we don't even try to tie in on neither side. They born tied in.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by being born tied in, they make sure in a European family lineage is everything to them because they know what it means. They know that's the one thing that keeps them submitted on this land. They know this.
Facts.
Doodle Vision says we like to disown stuff.
Instead of man.
Here's one thing I can say about this, and I can only speak for me. Ain't nobody kicking me off my land. I don't care what you look like. What you not gonna do is take what I have a right to, and just because you look different than me, I'm not gonna show up. I'm not gonna show up for my reunion. Not only am I gonna show up for my reunion, I'm bringing my whole family with me.
Mm-hmm. That's how I do it, and I said that before. All these people that tie back to tribes and don't want to go in and represent because the tribe is not melanated. You a fool.
Or you scared.
Oh man, say that again, please. I've been waiting for you to say that again. Say that one more time, please.
Indians that tie back to these tribes, and they got Mongoloids there, or so-called pale faces, and that's why you crying that you're not going back. You are a fool and a coward.
Right.
Because you're not answering the call. That's why this mess keep going on. Like TMH just said, man, you're supposed to go there and take as many as your family as possible, because guess how they get elected? Guess how they get into power? Chiefs are elected people. So if more of us pop up, if more of us start participating, what you think happens when we vote? Then we start voting chiefs that look like us. Didn't they say in 1906, when they went to Congress, the reason that they started striking us off the rolls, because they could never keep power in a vote because it was too many of us? So y'all encourage not participating, coward.
I don't know what you're scared of. You can talk smack to somebody that look like you, but you can't talk smack to somebody that don't look like you. Gang recognize gang, Grandpa.
And you looking real unfamiliar right now.
David says they get power by cooking that nasty gravy. That's right. You supposed to go and take over the grill, because you got a right to that grill. You got a right to that house.
You wonder why the potato salad got red potatoes, no mayonnaise, and apples and pecans in it. Because you ain't showing up.
What is this?
Banana pudding watery. Because we ate it.
The instructions on the box for some of that stuff.
Antonio says, I hear y'all. I'm 60% serious. And again, I get it, Antonio. And again, this is not directed at anybody in the chat. This is just for those that are under the assertion that they won't even get accepted. See, here's the thing. People are under the impression that we're telling you to go in there and ask for something. Nah. When I say you go in there, we're going to help you with your tribe. We're going to give you leverage. You're going to make an offer they can't... We're gonna give you an offer. You're gonna make them an offer they can't refuse. Because right now these tribes are not self-sustaining. So if you give them the ability to be self-sustaining, they're gonna invite you in. They're gonna beg for you to come back.
And guess what A2 got? Ha ha! The ability and resources to help you become self-sufficient.
So you're not going there with your hand out. You're going there with leverage. You're going there with the ability to negotiate.
Hope y'all heard that. You choppy. I hope y'all heard that though.
Go ahead and say it again, Bones. You coming in choppy, bro.
We about that business. And just in case you didn't hear me, we about that business.
So at the end of the day, we're not coming there asking for nothing. We coming and telling you, this is what we got to offer. If you don't take it, we know a whole bunch of other tribes that's going to take it. And remember, here's the thing y'all got to realize too. You can be adopted into a tribe. So if you can bring $30,000, $40,000, a couple of $1 million to a tribe, what tribe ain't gonna bring you in? I'll wait. Do I need to say that again? Because I don't think they heard me.
Please do, sir.
Remember, you can be adopted into a tribe. You know that, right? So if your tribe chooses not to take you, I promise you, out of the 1,500 tribes that exist, somebody gonna adopt you if you can bring them 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, 250,000, 1.4, 2 million, 2 million, 2 million. I'm just saying. Somebody gonna adopt you.
Y'all cutting up this morning. Yeah.
Now, James.
Let's go.
Now, so I'm going to ask an Indian. James, is there anything that we said thus far that is inaccurate or incorrect?
No, not at all. That's why they've been adopting people in all day long, because they come in. That's where it gets the term of the $5 Indian. They were buying their way in. They didn't start out being $5 Indians. They bought their way in. And you think back then, $5 was a lot of money. So if you have the means to come in, and you coming in and saying, this is what I can donate to the tribe. Oh, hey, how are you, brother? How are you, sister? Welcome aboard. And they're gonna showcase you just like they did Kyrie Irving. You think it was just more because he was supposed to be a part of that tribe, but all of the other people that have applied, that they've denied, why did they grant him access? Think about it. Multi-millionaire, Uncle Drew. I yield the mic.
It was the benefits. And I'm glad that you said that you mentioned the $5, because people keep saying $5, $5. $5 was like an arm and a leg and half a toe back at this time. Do you know what you can buy with $5 back in this day? We have to stop making it seem like every European walking around had $5 in their pocket to spare. No. If you had $5 to pay per each family member, I'm gonna say it again, $5 to pay per each family member to get on them dolls rolls, you came from prominence and had money. Let's wake up here.
Antonio says, man, I can't stand how the money changed things. We still perpetuate capitalism and enslavement. But in order to change the system, bro, you have to be able to control the system. You can't change what you can't control. David Corey says you were well off if you had $5. That's true. So this is what I'm saying.
You were balling.
So this is what I'm saying. If you go to a tribe with leverage, you can negotiate. If you go to a tribe with your hand out, you getting put off.
Whee!
So I wanted to address something, because you know me, I like to make things clear, make things keep things straight so people know exactly where A2 is coming from. So it's been brought to my attention, especially from backchats and the like, that who are we? We haven't been here that long, and we're not in the best interest of I guess Aboriginals or Autochthonous people. And I had somebody ask me this question. He's like, the question that was asked to him is, where were you 2 years ago? If you had your best interest of the people at hand, where were you 2 years ago? And you know what? That's a great question. 2 years ago, I was running my business. 2 years ago, I didn't even know you existed. 2 years ago, I didn't even know there was a group of individuals that could get together and find out their tribal heritage. I didn't even know this existed 2 years ago. Because had I known it existed 2 years ago, I would have been here 2 years ago. And because some of you shared this information with me, which allowed me to find my tribe and find out who I am, is the reason why I'm here. So 2 years ago, I wasn't here because I didn't know. I had yet to be exposed to this community, to this way of life, to all of you, to everybody that shared information from, Curry Mayo, Dan Calloway, Ty Data, and a Tribe Up. For all of you individuals, A1, AP, that have shared this information is the reason why I know who I am to this day. So it's ironic and it's interesting that there are people questioning that we've only been here a short amount of time, and they're saying that we're not here for the best interest of the people, where we're the only nonprofit YouTube channel that's helping our Indian people. We're the only nonprofit, meaning that any money that comes in does not go to us because
Hey,
we set up the nonprofit. If you study the nonprofit structure, we don't benefit financially.
I'm currently raising the roof.
So at the end of the day, we're new. We're brand new. We're the new guys, I guess, which that's what you can call us. But we are
Brand new.
here for your at your for your better interest and for your betterment. And I'm a one of the coldest statements that I ever heard in addressing this came from Ty Data Tribe Hub. Shout out to Ty Data. And he was talking about an organization or a group of people
no, it
who
doesn't.
had a problem with the Aboriginal movement, right? They had a problem with the
Uh huh.
Aboriginal movement and us trying to find our tribe. And he said one of the coldest lines I ever heard. So I got to give him props for this because you know me, I'm always going to give respect. He says, "Don't be mad at us because we just got here. Y'all had over 100 years to do something and y'all ain't do nothing. You mad at us because we only been here like 5 or 6 years and we done more in 5 or 6 years than you done in 100 years." Yo, that was like a dagger. When I heard that, I was like, I had to read back in my seat. I was like, whoa.
This
But
is embarrassing.
but that's real.
That's real. That is
You
real.
got upset with what they was doing on Tribe Up because of what it was a movement. And he's still doing it. So like I said, shout out to Ty Data. But I'm gonna have to copy what he said in reference to those that have a problem with what A2 was doing. And and quite honestly, we've done more in 3 months than some of y'all people in the indigenous movement have done in 3 years, in 5 years. So why are you mad?
5 to 7 years. Outworkers. Stop the crying.
Ooh,
Now-
better.
Outworkers.
Now, so I can get some validation on this. Don't just take it from somebody who's only been an Indian, who's only been a quote unquote card carrying Indian less than a year. I'm gonna let you talk to an Indian who's been an Indian all his life, who can run circles around any Indian on any platform, and that's James. James,
Man.
let me ask you this question: would you say that we've done more for the Indian community in the last 3 months than most Indians that are on YouTube channels have done in the last 3 or 4 years?
I concur. And I said this in the back chat and I say it publicly. I have been waiting for you all. And I'm gonna say it again, because I know there's a few in the chat that still don't get it. This is the most intelligent group that I've been around in all of my life. Period. Hands down. Because it is about doing the work, not just sitting back and saying like, oh well, and recycling the same dollars. I done moved my seven. Oh no, I'm not gonna say that. I done moved my $5 from this PayPal group to that PayPal group. Then I'm going back to this PayPal group to use that $5 because somebody from another group gave me $5 because I sold them a dream chaser. So let me go over here and to this group and pay my $5 and get an unk. I yield the mic.
So you heard that coming from an Indian that's been in this community before it was a YouTube, when there was internet radio. So those aren't just my words. This is coming from somebody that's been here, that was here when this movement started. So I'm a copy one of the coldest statements I ever heard from somebody on Tribe Up. Shout out to Ty Data. This is for those that are wondering who these new kids on the block is, the new guys. Don't get mad because we've done more in 3 months than you've done in 3 years. Do the work. Like
Facts.
I said, we're gonna help
And
these
can I add
tribes.
on?
Yeah, go ahead, bro. Go ahead and say what you got to say.
Please do.
I'm finna add on because it came to our attention of the rumors that was going on, and I really don't speak on it, and I never have. And this will be the first and only time I'm gonna speak on it. For all of you out there that's spreading this BS that I stole something, that I took something, that I sit here had an ulterior plan, the same information and the same infrastructure that built A2, I walked in the door offering it for free. So now y'all have to ask yourself, if these same entities had their hands on this blueprint that I was giving away for free, that TMH was giving his blueprint away for free, we're to this point because you do have people in this community that wanted to rob from our people. And I'm not finna sugarcoat it. We do have people out here perpetrating like they want to help you, but haven't did anything to help you, not 1 second. And you get mad and you complain and you push this BS around. But I'm gonna let y'all know something. The meetings From day one, when I walked in the door, everyone has been recorded. The public will know the truth on who's trying to hide secrets, who was trying to sell information, who was out here frauding to be an Indian. So let's stop this BS, because you will get crushed. The truth don't need nobody to lift it up, nobody to carry it, nobody to speak it. It's going to stand on its own. At no time have we ever addressed what anybody else do, even when you're wrong. We tell you that's your choice, but we're not going to work with you. But now y'all want to start this BS? Y'all want to act like y'all the gatekeepers? Are y'all out here helping people? Let's see. Outworkers. While you sitting here collecting from your streams, crying over making $20 off of people. You know who you are. Let the BS stop, because you will be exposed. This is not how we make our living. We're not here to take from our people. We have said this before. We don't need not $1 from our people. If you choose to give it, you give it, but we will never ask it from you. We will always give these services away for free. We ain't in here to make anything from no one. And all we ever ask in return is, let's clean up our communities. Let's clean up this BS. If a person is perpetrating wrong, call them out on it. You don't got to do it in public. Pull them aside and let them know. And for all of you who know and still perpetrate the BS, still finance it, still roll with it, you are the worst of the worst. Because you know the truth and you choose to hide it from your own people. How dare you? Sitting here talking about ancestral pride, but giving yourself self-titles. You ain't honoring your ancestors, you're disrespecting mine. For all of you that belong to tribes, but sit here and bang on Africans, but don't take 5 minutes to help your other Indians tie back into their tribes. How dare you? How many broken promises we got to keep taking? Just because you look like me, I shouldn't question you? Because you came in and gave empty promises? This must stop. And we don't have to say no names because everybody know. Let's stop turning a blind eye. Everybody know what the issues is in this community. Everybody know where the problems stem from. And let it be known, anybody got a problem with A2 being here, helping the American Indian, helping the tribes, I advise you get some Tylenol, because we just starting. And on that, I dropped the mic.
If you have a problem, you can email us at untouchassembly@gmail.com.
So, because I don't like people dictating our narrative, I'm going to continue to state what we're here for. I'm going to continue to state who we are and what we do. A2's sole purpose is to help those who have heard that they have Indian in their family find their Indian side of the family. We're here to help you do your genealogy. We're here to help you tie back into your tribe. We're here to help you and your tribe, if that's what you want. If that's not what you want, then we're not going to help you. We're not going to force you. We are not here to tell you who you are. We are not here to tell you who you are not. We are not here to tell you that what you are doing is not working. We don't go on other people's platforms and argue with them. I don't care what your religious background is. We don't care what your belief structure is. If what you're doing is to help your people, you will have no problem from us. If you come here to this channel, to this platform, and your wishes are tied to your tribe, then that's what we're going to help you do. If your wish is to come here and get more information and you disagree, that's on you. But if you disagree, please bring facts. That's all I'm going to ask you. Please bring facts. Don't come here with an opinion, because we don't do opinions. We're not here to tell you who you are not. We're here to help those who want to tie into their tribes. That's what we are. That's what we're doing. That's all we're doing. We have no beefs with any other organizations or any belief systems. You will never hear us speak ill of any other organizations or any belief systems. Because we are minding our business. Your business is your business. Your belief is your belief. Do you? But if what you're doing is coming over here or you're trying to harm anybody on this platform, now you're in my business. Now you're in our business. Now we have to deal with you. But if you're not bothering us, we won't bother you. So hopefully you understand exactly why we're here and what we're here to do. And if people are continuing to say that we're not here to help, prove it. Prove that we're not here to help people.
How many people we done did genealogy for and got further on their journey? How many people we make sure that it doesn't matter what your income is, that you will be able to have access to this information? Ancestry.com, I can't afford it. So what? We got you. How many people are going out letting you hear information from real tribes, real chiefs? How many channels are even putting up the locations and phone numbers and whereabouts so you can get information to be signed back into your tribe? But they're out to help. Judge a tree by its fruit. I'm going to say it again. Judge a tree by its fruit.
So, at the end of the day, this is what it's about. If you're here because you want to find your tribe, we got you. If you're here because you want to start some problems, we got you too. But if you ain't bothering us, we're not going to bother you. I'm not going to call your name. I'm not going to go to your platform. I'm not going to go to your chat. I'm not going to go to your city. I'm not going to go to your town. I have way too much stuff to do to be bothering with somebody that has no intentions on becoming an Indian. I don't. So if you have no intentions on becoming an Indian, I don't have a problem with you. Please understand it. I'm going to say it again. If you have no intentions on finding out who your genealogy is or who your tribe is or wanting to become an Indian, I do not have a problem with you because my business is to help those who want to. So I'm going to continue to mind my business. A2 is going to continue to mind its business. We don't do debates. We are not here to debate. We're here to get work done. So if you come in here to debate, you won't get one because that is not productive for us and it's not productive for you and your cause. You debating us is going to keep you from helping the people that believe what you believe and furthering your cause. This is chess, not checkers. Understand that.
Mm-hmm. Please do. Please.
So, we're not here for the BS. We're not here for the games. We're here to do work. Debating is not work. Arguing is not work. Calling people out and talking about them, that's not work. We're here to work. We work in the communities and we work on YouTube to help these people in YouTube work in their communities. If that's not what your goal is, you're never gonna hear from me.
Please do. Never, unless it get
You just muted, Bones.
brought to our knowledge, out here causing damage and mischief. Then we'll find you. Believe me.
So, one thing I want to do is I do want to give a shout out to Wanagi because he dropped a video. I think it was yesterday. Forgive me if it's the wrong day, Wanagi, but he put about 10 volumes of books in a PDF in this link. So for those of you who want some information, please go check out Wanagi's channel and get access to these 10 volumes of books. These 10 volumes are basically covering the five civilized tribes. These are free. You can go to his website, you can go to his YouTube channel, and he's giving you information. He is sharing information. So shout out to Wanagi for doing it because he didn't have to do it. So he's sharing information. So When you get a chance, go check out his latest feed and get those 10 links with PDFs. So shout out to Renegade.
Mhm. And respect to every American Indian that's out there putting their best foot forward, doing what they can do to make this a better place. Respect for what you do, and you're not alone. It's just crazy, relative. It's crazy. I think I've been called every name in the book, except probably like.
So, does anybody have anything they want to say before we head out?
One or two. Anything from the panel? Anything? Last remarks from you, James? No sellout?
I just want to say greetings to everybody in the chat that I've missed. Brother David Corey, Lady Free, everybody else who's in the chat. I apologize. Like I said, I can see the chat at times because I'm going back and forth. They say smartphones are for dumb people. That's why I have a smartphone. So to everybody in the chat, I didn't want you to think that I was ignoring you all. I appreciate you all actually tuning in. I appreciate the panelists once again. You all keep bringing the heat. Give you something to think about. Keep thinking. Keep researching. And no one knows everything. So again, something that we don't know, please share. You have some more information to give, please share. But again, that's the only way we're going to build. That's the only way we're going to stay stronger. So I appreciate you all, the gentlemen that are on the panel. Keep doing what you're doing. I yield the mic.
Appreciate you, James. Appreciate everybody for showing up today. And I feel like a Friday for some reason. But if you have any questions or any problem, email us at unconsciousassembly@gmail.com. Appreciate y'all.
Peace in the chat. Thanks for everybody coming out, showing support. And thank you for showing support to all the other Aboriginal channels, Autochthonous channels, the American Indian channels. Because at the end of the day, like I said, we don't all know everything. So, shout out to all those who are out there dropping the information, sharing the information, showing what you're doing in the community, give everybody else hope to know that, they can do it too. Because that's what it's about. We're here to help. If you didn't get anything out of this, what we read today, what I hope you got is that the reason why we are in the position that we're in, well, one of the reasons is because their intent was to keep us from being communal. At the end of the day, the reason why we are no longer communal is because we don't want to hold each other accountable. We don't want to clean out our own backyard. We don't want to clean out our own front yard. We don't want to sweep our own porch. We don't want to call out the crap. But again, you cannot expect to correct somebody and tell them they got a smudge on their face when your whole body is dirty. When you dirty inside and out, how you going to correct a smudge on somebody's face? Clean your house first. If you see that your brother's or your sister's house need to be cleaned, pull them to the side and say, hey, you might want to clean this up. You might want to fix this. You might want to correct this. Because we all have blind spots. Don't be afraid of calling it out, tell it or correcting it. Because the only way we're going to get anywhere is if we clean our own house first. We cannot get somewhere when we got all this BS going on and people just allowing it to happen and people sidestepping and making excuses for it and being like, well, that's just them. No, it ain't just them. Our ancestors once had a blood for blood code. Now we to the point, we go from having a blood for blood code to allowing people to just backstab people and just take money from people and we just make excuses for it. Well, did you talk to them? Did you ask them questions? Man, everybody know they scamming and hustling, and we gonna defend them. But we're not defending a person that didn't get their product or their service. So you talk about we gonna be a nation and you want to unite? I'm not uniting with somebody like that. I'm not uniting with a scammer, and I'm not uniting with somebody that supports a scammer.
No.
So until you get your house clean, we can't clean up our house, the government. If your house is dirty, how you gonna tell the government their house is dirty and your house is dirty in the government's house? Or just as dirty? Clean your house first. And if you're scared to do it, say you're scared. Don't make excuses. Say you're scared you need some help. That's what interventions are for. Don't act all big
Hmm.
and bad and bang your chest and talk all this stuff in circles. When you scared, you scared. Your actions speak so loudly that we can't hear a word you saying.
None whatsoever. And
And
I clean my ears this rising.
and here's something to remember. You don't have to believe me. Do your research. Everything that is public on these channels is archived. I'm going to say it again. Everything that is public in these social media platforms is archived. Don't you realize that this stuff will come back to your children's children and they will see how you behaved? They will see how you act. They will see how you reacted. They will see what you did. They will see what you said. Not only will they see it, now they'll be able to hear it. So if there's something that you're doing behind closed doors in these chats and you don't want nobody to know, too late. Now you can atone and correct it. You can't undo what you did. You can't unsay what you said, but you can correct it. If you think I'm lying about it, prove me wrong. Show me where it's not being archived. Show me where it's being deleted. It's not. So just keep that in mind when you do what you do and when you say what you say. We gotta hold each other accountable. Period, point blank in discussion. And if you scared to hold people accountable, you ain't nobody I want to be dealing with. Because if you scared to hold your own people accountable, you sure enough gonna be scared to hold somebody accountable that don't look like you. I yield the mic.
And basically, take the time out to do your genealogy today. Take the time out to talk to someone in your family, someone at your job, someone that you care deeply about their genealogy. Let's move this forward. Let's start holding ourselves and our communities accountable for the choices and decisions that they make. And therefore, by default, we create a better situation for 7 generations forward. But if all we're going to do is sit down and point fingers and complain, then we leave this mess for 7 generations to clean up. So on that note, it has always been wonderful like it is with the relatives in the rising. Much love to the realest chat every rising. Until the next show, peace.
Peace, y'all.